10 years ago, I lived in a quiet, picturesque village surrounded by rolling hills and golden fields. At just 18, I was young, hopeful, and eager to embrace the world. My days were filled with simple joys, helping my mother in the kitchen, gossiping with my friends by the river, and dreaming of a love story that would change my life. In our village, there was a boy named Ethan. He was charming, with sharp features and an easy smile that made every girl swoon. He carried himself with an air of confidence, the kind that made hearts race and warnings go unheard. Like many others, I found myself drawn to him, but unlike them, I believed I was special. I believed he saw me differently. My mother disapproved. "Ethan is not the kind of boy you should trust," she warned. "Stay away from him." My aunt echoed her concerns. "He leaves heartbreak in his wake," she muttered. "That boy is trouble." But I was young, blinded by infatuation, and I refused to listen. Love, or what I thought was love, made me reckless. One Saturday night, our village hosted a dance party in the town square. My friends and I were eager to go. My mother hesitated, sensing something, but after much pleading, she relented. "Stay with your friends," she urged, worry deep in her voice. The night was vibrant, filled with laughter, music, and the warm glow of lanterns swaying in the evening breeze. The air was alive with the sound of violins and the rhythmic tapping of shoes on the cobblestone. Then Ethan arrived. His eyes found mine across the crowd, and he smiled. My heart fluttered. When he asked me to dance, I felt like I was living in a dream. We swayed under the star-studded sky, his touch gentle, his whispers intoxicating. Everything seemed perfect. When the party ended, he leaned in and murmured, "Let's go for a drive." Without a second thought, I agreed. He led me to his sleek black car, his prized possession. The engine roared to life as we drove through the quiet village streets, the scent of pine and cool night air filling the car. Felt safe, cherished. But then he took a turn onto an unfamiliar road. The laughter in his voice faded, replaced by something more dangerous. The darkness around us felt heavy. "Where are we going?" asked my voice, uncertain. He pulled over in an isolated clearing, no lights, no signs of life. He turned to me, his expression shifting. His eyes darkened with intent. He leaned in, trying to kiss me. Alarm bells rang in my head. Pulled away. "Ethan, no. Take me home." He ignored my words, his grip tightening around my wrist. Fear settled deep in my chest. "Stop, Ethan." I pushed him away, my voice trembling. Anger flashed in his eyes. "You're boring," he scoffed, shoving the car door open. Without another word, he pushed me out and drove away, leaving me alone in the cold, empty night. I stood there, heart pounding, shivering as the realization set in. The village was far, and I had no choice but to walk. My once beautiful shoes were now a cruel burden, my feet aching with every step. The darkness was suffocating, each sound magnified by my fear. After what felt like hours, I reached home. My mother took one look at me and knew. She held me as I sobbed, my heart shattered, my illusions broken. The next day, I confided in my friends. Their faces fell. "Ethan has always been like this," one admitted. "Why didn't you warn me?" I whispered. "We thought you knew," another shrugged. I learned a painful but invaluable lesson that night. Love should never hurt. It should never be forced or filled with deceit. I was no longer the naive girl who had once believed in fairy tales. I was stronger now. Years passed, and I left the village behind, moving to the city where no one knew my past. I built a life from scratch, working tirelessly to stand on my own. Now, at 28, I am married, expecting my first child, and truly happy. Ethan, on the other hand, had fallen. My old friends told me he had drowned himself in alcohol, his once charming smile replaced with bitterness. failed marriages, broken promises. He was now a ghost of the boy I once knew. But I had no regrets. Every hardship had led me to something greater. At 20, when I first arrived in the city, I found solace in a small bookstore where I worked. The scent of old paper and ink became my comfort. I enjoyed my quiet life, my interactions with customers, and the predictability of my routine. One rainy afternoon, I stood under a tree, waiting for the downpour to ease. I had no umbrella, and the rain seeped into my clothes, chilling me to the bone. Then a deep voice broke through my thoughts. "Need some help?" I turned to find a man standing beside me, holding a bright red umbrella. He was tall, with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. He nodded. "Yes, thank you." He walked me to the bookstore, his presence reassuring. Before leaving, he introduced himself. "I'm Daniel. I work in an office nearby. Can I see you again?" Smiled. "Maybe." The next day, Daniel returned to buy a book. Then another. Soon he visited every day. We talked about books, movies, dreams. He made me laugh, something I hadn't done in a long time. Slowly, my walls began to crumble. One evening he asked, "Would you like to go for coffee?" I hesitated. Then I said yes. Over steaming cups, he told me about his younger sister, whom he adored, his dream of traveling the world, and his belief in kindness. For the first time in years, I believed in love again. Then one day he stopped coming. Days turned to weeks, and my heart ached. Had I misread everything? Then, one rainy evening, I saw a familiar red umbrella outside my building. "Where were you?" I asked, breathless. "My sister was sick. I had to be with her," he said, sincerity in his eyes. Smiled. "I'm glad you're back." He held the umbrella over us. "Let's go for a walk." And so we did, walking through the rain, the city lights shimmering around us. That night I knew I had found true love. Now, at 30, Daniel and I live in a cozy home with a small garden. Sometimes when it rains, we take our red umbrella and walk together, just like that first day. Life had thrown its challenges at me, but it had also led me to where I was meant to be. And for that I am grateful.